Here is how the split testing process can add 7 figures in revenue to any Shopify brand. A killer split test could completely change the trajectory for your brand. It gives you the momentum to go from steady, stagnant revenue to a path of consistent growth that can lead to 7 figures in additional revenue. How do I know this? I've spent the past 12 months conducting split tests myself and researching the most successful brands on earth, which by the way, they all split test, or else they wouldn't be the biggest brands on earth. And it comes down to 6 simple steps. But before, let's look at there are 2 types of e-commerce brands out there, and we have brand A and brand B. Brand A, it's a brand that obviously has their current situation and they have a desire for growth. So the owner says, let's change stuff around because we want to grow. We want to grow the brand, which is a smart decision, definitely. So they decide to update their store, they decide to pull up new offers for their products, they decide to change their designs around, how they present their stuff, how they present their content and their product on the store. They decide to change it around, they decide to put in new products and sell new products on their store. But then after 12 months, they see that they are at their same starting situation and they experienced at best marginal improvements, or in the worst situations, they lost money and lost revenue with the changes they made, because they just made random changes around and they thought it was a smart decision to do so, and they thought they were on a good path by just making changes around in their store. And after 12 months though, they see that they are at the same starting situation. But there are brands like brand B. Brand B also has a current situation like brand A, also has a desire for growth like brand A. So the owner says, let's change stuff around, which is again a smart decision, but they decide to use a strategic approach. This is the difference between 2 brands. So they decide to actually test how their changes are impacting their store, their revenue, their conversion rate, their average order value. And so as you can see here, they run split test number 1, they run split test 2, and they keep running split test. As you can see, split test number N, they keep running split test all throughout these 12 months on their store, and they see that split test 1 is responsible for a 5% increase in conversion rate and a 10% increase in revenue per session. Split test number 2 is responsible for a 10% increase in average order value, and split test 3 performed very, very well. And is responsible for a 25% increase in conversion rate. And after 12 months, they see compounding consistent growth, because they actually can understand what are the things that are impacting and responsible for these changes, and they can replicate and double down on them. So these are the 2 differences between brand A and brand B. And obviously, if you were to decide which brand to be in this situation, you would much likely prefer to be brand B. Brand Bs are brands like our clients, and brands that operate like brand B can get results like these. So for example, as you can see here, this is a split test we've ran for one of our DTC Shopify brand clients. We have achieved for them a 21% increase in conversion rate, a 54% increase in revenue per site visitor, which corresponds to $81,000 in additional monthly revenue in 30 days, and a staggering $900 increase in average order value. And this other test, again for another client of ours, 73% increase in revenue per site visitor, which amounts to a $110,000 increase in monthly revenue. This also in 30 days of working with them. So how can you get results like brand B's that use this strategic approach to split test their store? Well, we'll look at it right now, and we can start from step 1 of the 6 simple steps I've outlined before. Step 1 is research. This is fundamental, and there are a few steps of why this is such an important step and the first step of the entire process. Most brands like brand A's that we've seen before don't even know how to sell their own product. They don't know what pains and problems their customers are experiencing. They don't know how they feel. They don't know what's their goal. They don't know how would they want their life to look. And this is an issue, because if you don't know these very important things, or you have a general idea of how it is and not a clear idea of what your customers want from your brand and your product, you can't sell your own product. And also research is very, very important, because good research and ICP knowledge enables you to write copy that bypasses price objections, because your customers would do anything to fulfill their internal desires. So it's as if prices disappear, because they would do anything, absolutely anything, to solve their pain and their problem, and your product does that for them. But if you don't know how to sell it to them, they won't buy from you. So what's the easiest and cheapest way to conduct research? It is by analyzing your reviews. You have a goldmine of information at your disposals of customers that bought your product, that used it, that have an opinion and an experience about it, and decided to write it in public. I don't know why so many brands sleep on their reviews. There are a lot of information that you can extract from there. Especially if you have 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 reviews, 100,000 reviews, you can extract a goldmine of information from that on how to sell your product better, on what customers expect from your product, and on how to sell your product to the same exact target of people that are already buying from you. So this is step 1, research fundamental. Step 2 is hypothesis, how to build hypothesis and how to build test ideas. A hypothesis is a statement that predicts how a change will impact your store. Example, changing this headline on my store will increase conversion rate by 10%. And how do you come up with hypothesis? After step 1, you're armed with ICP knowledge and you have your current situation, which is your current store. So you open up a Figma file. This is the process we use internally to achieve the results you've seen before for our partner clients. You import your current pages and everything's research related. You put everything there in a Figma and you use it as a board. And then you brainstorm ideas for changes directly on the file by writing comments next to where you want the change to be applied. This applies obviously for content changes. There are also offer changes, price changes, but we'll see that in the next step. And so you can see on the right, very, very straightforward process. You brainstorm the split test ideas and you have 4 main questions in mind, which is what, why, how, and an expected outcome. Every step, every hypothesis must have these 4 very important things. After you've come up with all of the hypotheses, you need to prioritize them. When testing, you want to make sure you are targeting high traffic, high priority changes first. The highest priority change of all of them is offer, which is the bread and butter of your product and for your brand, obviously. Then the second highest priority is targeting. So it's who you're selling your offer to, and presentation, how you're showing your offer to your target. So you rate every test from 1 to 10 for priority based on these 3 categories there. And for example, changing your discount structure on bundles. Let's say you're selling a product that has bundles and you're selling it in bundles. Changing the discount structure on those bundles is an offer test because you're changing your offer around. Therefore, very important and a 10 out of 10 priority. So let's see, for example, here an example of a presentation test. This is a buy box that one of our customers had before we came in and changed it around. This is a presentation test because we didn't touch anything about the prices and how the buy box is structured itself. We just changed the presentation and we went from this to this. As you can see, this looks much better. We didn't touch prices, we didn't touch discounts, we didn't touch the offer structure. We just touched the presentation here and tested that, and this resulted in a massive increase in revenue of almost $150,000 monthly, an increase thanks to this presentation test. And as you can see on the right, again, very simple, straightforward. There are macro tests, which are what I just explained to you, so offer, targeting, and presentation. There are micro tests, which are all of the other niche things on your store that are not part of these 3 categories. After you have prioritized all of your list of tests, you go on to design and implementation. This is very straightforward. You take your highest priority hypothesis, you design it, you implement it. For our clients, we use code and native ingredient, but you can also use Shopify apps and whatever app that can help you implement what you want to test on the store. And then for actually setting up and running the test, we use intelligence.io or convert.com for setup of the test and actually running the tests. And then we go forward with step 5, data gathering and analysis. This step is crucial, and a lot of brands that are already testing get this step very wrong. So be sure you make this right. Stopping tests early is worse than not running them at all. Even if a test is winning initially, you can only see the real results after a relevant sample of visitors has gone through a variation. If you run a test for a day and you just get, for example, 50 orders in that day, but you get much more orders in a longer time span, you cannot say for sure that the results are correct from that one only day of data against 7 days of data where the results start to average out. You can use this phase to keep spinning up tests while you're waiting for data, but you cannot stop test after this small of a time frame, or else you'll be taking decisions on flow data that does not actually represent how the real world situation looks. And as you can see on the right, you can use significance calculators to understand what sample size you need to actually make sure that you have a significant and relevant test to be able to make decisions on. So after the step 5 is completed, you go on to step 6, which is the last step of the process. When you reach that relevant samples of visitors and have gathered enough information, you can stop the test. If the test won, you pivot to the new setup. If the test lost, you discard and keep the original variation. And if the test results are inconclusive, because there are also these kinds of situations, you can decide on 2 things. You can either pivot or discard anyway, based on if you decide that the test itself is a net positive or a net negative change, or you can rebuild the hypothesis and test again in the future, which is my favorite option. So when tests that are neither winning nor losing, we rebuild them and we test them again in the future with different setups, because then we have the data to actually make the test better and see if it performs better under different conditions. But it doesn't end here. When you stop a test, you need to ask yourself, why did the test win or lose, and what could have been done better, which is actually what I mentioned in the point before. You can ask yourself these questions to actually make, if you're going to remake the test after, you can make the test better and see if it performs better under different conditions. And then you can feed all of this wealth of information to your research bank, which we mentioned in step 1, and restart again from step 1 with the new knowledge at your disposal to come up with new hypotheses and keep testing. Because the beauty of CRO and split testing is that it's a compounding process. You never stop it, you keep on doing it, and the percentages compound over time to incredible growth over the span of 6, 10, 12 months or even years of split testing your stores. There are a few common misconceptions also I want to tackle here. So for example, the first one is split testing is all about optimizing conversion rate. This is absolutely false. Would you accept a lower conversion rate but higher overall revenue and more money in your pocket? Exactly, that's what I thought. Split testing is useful only for massive brands. This is false. Any brand over $100,000 in monthly revenue can and should test. It's very, very important. And under $100,000, I feel like there's more important and needle moving things you need to do. You can also split test under those revenue numbers, but I would suggest actually putting effort into it over $100,000 monthly revenue. My brand is particularly split testing can't help my brand. This is absolutely false. Any brand will benefit massively from seeing what their customers resonate with the most, and we're raking more revenue than ever before in the process of doing that. There are a few ways I can help you with split testing. I have a newsletter called the CRO Letter, where you can find case studies, tips and tricks on how to split test for conversion rate, revenue and AOV optimization. This comes from our many tests we've ran for our clients, for our DTC brand clients over the last 12 months on Shopify. There is my Twitter account where you can find all of these case studies. You can find examples of the work we do for our clients, and then the last step, if you want to go directly for it, you can book a call with me, a discovery call. If you run a DTC brand on Shopify that is between 7 and 8 figures in revenue, you can book a call with me and we can go over and see what we can do for your brand in terms of split testing and achieving the results you've just seen for other brands, and implementing our infrastructure and split testing process into your brand to get you these results. See you in the next video.